The only wrong way to pray is to not pray. So if you pray by just talking and conversing with God, then do it. If you talk and converse with nature, Mother Nature, then do it. You're still sending those prayers to God.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to watch this wonderful show with Vincent. He likes to be called Vinny Tolman. And it's amazing story. He was actually in a body bag, dead for like over an hour. And his journey is fantastic. So glad everyone's here to meet Vincent Todd Tolman, who has a wonderful near-death experience to share with us. Some of you are probably following him, which is good because he's on YouTube, a lot of places. And you know, he has a new book coming out. So we'll talk about that later. But here we go. So thank you so much, Vincent, for being here and sharing your story. We really appreciate. So tell us everything, leave nothing out.
Well, this would need to be like 6 hours long at least, but
All right.
leave nothing out. But we'll abridge it for everybody so
Okay.
that
But
people
I've
can
got a
get
list
the.
of questions. I've got a list of questions.
We'll give them the Cliff Notes version.
Okay.
That works.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. First off, you can call me Vinny if you like. That's what most people call me, and even though when I'm in trouble, I am Vincent. So I hear Vincent a little bit here and there. Death experience happened in 2003. I had actually died. I had aspirated. I took a weightlifting supplement that was toxic. Me and a buddy of mine, we both took it at the same time. We went into a Dairy Queen, a restaurant, and I went in and collapsed in the bathroom behind a locked door. Meanwhile, my buddy went in and collapsed on one of the booths, and the manager there ended up calling emergency services and got him hauled away and taken to a hospital. He was totally fine. They ended up pumping his stomach, and he was released out of the hospital the next day. Meanwhile, I did pass out on that bathroom floor. I ended up vomiting and aspirating, which is I ended up breathing in the vomit that was coming out of me, which suffocated me. And that's where my story begins, and that's where my life ended for a moment, for a while. My body did die right there and then on the floor of that bathroom of the Dairy Queen. About 45 minutes after my buddy was already hauled away, the manager of the restaurant did unlock that bathroom for another customer, and he found my body dead on the floor. He called emergency services for the second time that day, and a few minutes later, a medical team, a team of 3 men, they got on the scene, and they pronounced the body dead. They did try to resuscitate the body, but they did pronounce it dead. And meanwhile, this entire time, from the time that I passed out, my consciousness all of a sudden was looking over this whole space and was viewing everything from above. And it's very surreal. I didn't know at all that what I was watching was me. I thought that me was up here watching what was going on down below me. It didn't hit me even for a second that what I was watching was my own death. So I sat there and witnessed them bagging this body. I witnessed them turning the body over, doing some certain tests and stuff on the body. I saw them put it in the back of the ambulance. I could actually hear the thoughts of everybody in that restaurant. I could hear out loud the thoughts of everyone, including this rookie medic. He was a brand new medic. It was his first week on the job. And he kept having this thought that he felt like they didn't try hard enough. He felt like they gave up too soon. Even though they got there and the body was cold to the touch, he felt that they should have tried harder. He felt that. That wasn't protocol, that was just his own perception. And while he was in the back of that ambulance and they were pulling away from the scene, this is now at least an hour, well over an hour, that the body's been gone, that the body's been dead. As they're pulling away from the scene, he actually feels this feeling come over him and tell him that this one's not all the way dead. So he breaks protocol. He unzips that body bag. He had to undo some straps just to open up the body bag. And he felt around for a pulse. He didn't feel one. He kept feeling down by the thigh. He was feeling for what they call the femoral artery, or the big artery near the femur. And as he made contact with the femur bone, he was pushing around trying to feel for that artery. He actually made contact with the femur bone. And when he did, I felt a spark, an ignition, almost an electrical spark between me up here observing everything and him down there trying to check on the body. And from that spark, that was enough, that ignition, whatever that was enough for him to go ahead and try to resuscitate this body. He went ahead and hooked up a defib machine. He hooked up electricity to the body so that he could try to jumpstart the heart, as well as he started to force feed oxygen into the lungs. And as he was doing this, the other two medics started to ridicule him and really kind of put him down, tell him he was going to get fired, that he was breaking protocol, that this was illegal, he wasn't supposed to do this. But he went ahead and did it anyway. The first round of shocks to the body did nothing. The second round, there was a single heartbeat, a single blip. And then the third round of shocks, they got an actual steady heartbeat to come out of the body. And from there, one of the precious miracles of all this is they were only about 300 to 400 feet from a hospital when the heart started again. So they were able to get the body right to a trauma center and have professionals working on that body right away. And at this point, I watched them pull into the hospital. I watched them transfer the body from the gurney. I watched them cutting the body bag off of the body. I watched them strapping the body down because the body started to go into all sorts of seizures and started more vomiting. There was more vomiting going on, and there was like a weird foam that was coming out of the mouth and out of the nose. And the professionals were trying to treat this body and work on it, so they had to strap it down. As they strapped it down, I felt someone strapping me down. Where I was sitting, where I was watching this all play out, I felt someone strap my arms. And when that happened, it finally dawned on me that what I'd been watching this whole time had been my own death. And if there was ever the most surreal moment of my life, that was it. That was so odd to sit there and realize that what I'd been witnessing for well over an hour was my own death. And when that hit me, all of a sudden these tremendous fear feelings came over me. And I had a quick flash of all the negative things I ever did in my life. But I didn't just see these things from my eyes. I saw them from the eyes of those who beheld what I did. And I started to feel that I was not valuable. I wasn't worth anything because I was a bad person. And as that flushed through me, and I got to the end of that whole quick life review as far as everything bad I ever did, I then started to see everything good I ever did. Also from the eyes of those who received my service and my love and my care. And I got to see that there was a lot of good there. There was a lot of positive things that I had done in my life. And many times when I didn't even know I was making a positive influence, I was making a positive influence. And as that happened to me, this warmth started to pour over my back. It poured over me so enveloping me. I could feel just this love, this tremendous love, this love that words cannot describe, this love that is stronger and greater and bigger than anything we have in this life. This love poured over me. It washed over me. And it started to take away any of the little hiccups and problems and gaps and holes that were broken into me. And I started to heal energetically and feel the love of the Creator, Source, or God, pour over me. And I recognized that that love was coming from behind me. I turned around and saw this man, all dressed in white. He had a long white beard. He had kind of longish white hair. And I could see that he had just this tremendous amount of love for me. And he was directing all this energy onto me. And as I recognized it was him that was controlling this, I had the thought, oh, you're God. And he smiled and lovingly responded without using his mouth. He responded with just direct communication. No, son, I'm not God. My name's Drake, and I'm here to be your guide. I'm here to help you go wherever you want to go. And so he explained to me that he was truly there to help me either go back to my body or go anywhere in the universe that I want to go. And I definitely didn't want to go back to my body. Even the thought of that brought me pain, and I knew I did not want that. So I chose, I want to go wherever you came from. Wherever this energy that you're sending to me, this healing that you're giving me, I want to go where that comes from. And he explained that that comes from our home. What we would call here, what we would call heaven. And we began our journey. And that's where the big part of my experience begins, is right there, the beginning of my journey.
I do have a question prior to this experience. Did you believe in spirit guides or know what they were?
No, I had no idea what spirit guides were. I was raised Christian, so you're taught as a Christian what the Holy Spirit is, but you're not taught that it's beings or ancestors or loved ones. So I had no idea or no sense of that. Yeah, not until the actual happening of it. Yeah.
See, that's what's so cool about it, is that you didn't have a preconceived. Now, if you were just clean with this, so I'm okay. I'll let you continue, my friend.
Well, awesome.
Thank you.
Well, Deborah, it's really kind of cool. I didn't have any preconceived notion of spiritual guidance other than what I considered with like the Holy Spirit, and that's the only thing I had as a preconceived notion from my upbringing in Christianity. And so Drake, he went ahead and explained that he's going to take me on this journey. He was going to help me get to this place that was considered home, this place that all of us come from originally. And this journey, it was not going to be just a place, a distance that we were journeying. We weren't just journeying from the earth life to this heaven space or this home space, but we were going to be journeying from a very low dimension to a very high dimension. And what allows us to climb is this energy of love, this energy of high vibrational love that would allow us to use as jet fuel, essentially, to get to this place. And we had to use this love to be able to get there, otherwise we couldn't get there. So we began this journey, and I told him, well, I already was raised Christian, so go ahead and show me where the Christian front door or back door is, and I'll go ahead and just enter heaven. And Drake laughed at that. He laughed again, and every time he laughed, which he laughed at me a lot, he laughed in a very loving way, an empathetic way, but he laughed again and said, I love that you think that that's how it is, but how it really is there's only a front door to heaven, to home. And the front door is for all of us. And for us to get there, we first have to find who we are authentically, who we really are in our heart of hearts, in our core of cores. Who are we? So he helped me see who I really was. And I wasn't anything that I thought I was. I wasn't this 25-year-old amateur bodybuilder, because that's what I thought I was. I had worked in TV and film, so I thought I was special there. I wasn't special there. I thought that I, had certain accolades and awards and achievements, and none of that mattered. None of it. The car that I drove did not matter. The income that I earned did not matter. What mattered is that I understood who I really was. And I am, and we all are, a divine masterwork of the Creator. Every single one of us is a divine masterwork of the Creator. That the Creator gathered energy, gathered components from all over the universe to create us, to build us, who we are, what we are, and why we're here. And that if I could understand that I was this creation, this precious, precious creation, then that is where I needed to begin. So I began this process to understand that in this life, the most authentic of us are the very, very young or the very, very old. And it's the most authentic version of us that allows us to grow. And so I began my journey of authenticity with Drake. He helped me there, and he helped me understand that there's a real purpose to this life. And the purpose of this life is for us to be in the earth school, the school of earth for learning. And that life has always been a classroom, has never been a courtroom. And that anyone who teaches us a courtroom is trying to use power and manipulation to direct our lives. This life was never a courtroom. No one is on trial. No one. That was a big deal for me. I was raised in a belief system that life was this courtroom, that you were either passed or failed into the heaven realm. And if you were failed, you would go to this hell space. You would go to, what us Christians believe is hell. And if you passed, you'd go to this heaven space, this elite space. But what I didn't realize is the heaven space is for all of us. And the only hell that has and ever will exist is the hell that we create in our own minds. That is the only hell. Earth and Earth School is about as hard and as bad as it will ever get in our existence. Besides what we can create in our own mind, Earth School is as bad as it gets. So I began this process of rebuilding my belief system, rebuilding who I thought and I knew I was. And I learned that I needed to love everyone, that I had to truly love everyone. I had to recognize that all of God's creations, all of the creations of our source creator are extremely precious. And that for me to love my creator, I had to love every creation, even in its imperfect forms. When there are those around us that are imperfect, I had to even love them. And it helped me understand that each and every one of us have a spiritual DNA, an energetic DNA of our creator within us. And what that shows up in us as is the inner voice, a connection, an intuition, a gut feeling that we get from our creator. And that if I really plug into that in my life, I can strengthen that, and I can learn how to strengthen that as I plug in. And he also, Drake helped me understand that technology was going to be a great tool to help us with this, to help us plug into our intuition. But technology was also going to be a great enemy to intuition. And eventually it would become something that could replace intuition. And again, this happened back in 2003. Technology was very much still in its infancy compared to how it is now. And now I see it definitely as something that replaces intuition for people. that they could completely unplug from God, from our Creator, as they plug into social media, entertainment, and sports, all the different aspects of technology. They can contain our consciousness like a prison. And if we are contained in our entertainment, then we don't have the freedom to go where we need to go in this life. I had to learn to, even back then, to recognize enemies to my soul, enemies to my spirit. And I see it in everything out there. I do. And so it's important for us to use technology responsibly and recognize when there is something that is helping us or hindering us in this life.
So you had mentioned that, help me understand with your last statement about it's all around us. The negative, is that what you were saying? That it's
the negative and the
constantly
positive. Negative and
okay.
positive is all around
I
us
heard
all the
only
time.
negative, so I
Yeah.
wanted to okay.
Well, what's neat is, something I have learned to really honor is a principle called the hour of power, where you use the first 30 minutes when you wake up and the last 30 minutes before you go to bed to really honor your soul, honor your spirit, honor your soul path, and to make sure that you only put precious, clean things in your hour of power. So for those who are religious, you can put, scripture study, you can put prayer, you can put meditation. For those who are less religious, you can put grounding, walking out in nature. You can put even honoring the body with exercise and healthy nutrition. It's important that we use our hour of power, because what that hour of power does is it frames our entire day. It frames the beginning and the end of our day. And what happens is when you frame yourself with any energy, you're going to actually create that energy in you. So if you put positive energy in your hour of power, you're going to put positive energy in you. But here's the other thing: if we allow ourselves to let news or entertainment, violent or sexual entertainment, to enter our hour of power, then that's going to actually build into us and be part of us. Then we will be part of that negative energy of the news or entertainment. So it's important for us to be very, very precise and intentional with our programming and our allowing our hour of power every single day.
Awesome. Thank you for that. A lot of people are
Yeah,
going to put that to
absolutely.
use right away. Thank you.
It's a big one. And it's funny, people don't realize, I deal with people every single day. I help and mentor people every single day. That's what I do for a living. And you'd be really surprised how many people don't know that they are dishonoring their hour of power. They're putting negative information, negative energy in their hour of power. So it's a very important principle for us to understand. And on my journey, as soon as I was understanding to have this healthy relationship with technology, Drake then brought me to the whole next level of releasing prejudice. And releasing prejudice was funny for me because I was raised in a biracial family. I had two full Asian sisters that are from Korea, and they were adopted. But I felt that I felt almost like I was more Korean than they were, and sometimes they would even argue that with you. But I'll tell you, I felt that I was their defender, and they were my defender as well. We really cared a lot for each other growing up, and I felt I was probably one of the least prejudiced people out there. And that's when Drake helped me see that there was a big hole in my strength of not being prejudiced. He asked me, he said, well, if you're not prejudiced at all, how do you feel about prejudiced people? And as soon as he said that, I started to go off. Oh, I hate prejudiced people. I can't stand the ignorance and the closed-mindedness. And he helped me understand that everyone, including prejudiced people, have their own path. And that I myself was joining the prejudiced team by hating prejudiced people. That was a big deal for me.
That's a big deal for all of us. That was the one thing that you had said on a podcast or something, and then it was boldly in the book. And I thought, I'm right there with you. So I'm glad to have a jump start on that. And
Yes.
you're going to help. This story is going to help so many people recalibrate into that alignment of
Mm-hmm.
spirit, thanks to you. So I won't keep you from the rest of your story, but that was
No
the
problem.
best. That was one of the
I love
best
it.
things.
Yeah, it was such a wake up call for me. It was a big wake up because I didn't think I was prejudiced at all. But the fact that I was prejudiced against prejudiced people, I myself was being prejudiced. And mind blown type of moment as Drake showed me that. He helped me understand that every single one of us have a tremendous power of creation. And the where we create in this life is it begins with our thoughts. And if we can really control our thoughts, get in front of our thoughts, control those thoughts, we can control our reality. We can control our power of creation. Because our thoughts, they'll become our actions, and our actions become our habits. Our habits become our character, and our character becomes our destiny. It becomes the captain of who we become. So it starts out with our thoughts, though. It's very important that we put positive thoughts in our heads. And if you don't have positive thoughts, find things, activities, even entertainment that creates positive thoughts in your head. And keep going that direction. Find other things, other ways that you get positive thoughts in your head, and keep going. Keep going. One of the best ways that you can build positive energy or positive thoughts is to go out and give others what they need. I've learned that so strong in my life that whenever I lack anything, if I can go out there and give what I'm lacking to others, I myself receive whatever I'm missing.
Right. I feel the same way. I notice that I feel better when I serve another person.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Drake spoke to you about the purpose of evil. And
Mm-hmm.
also later on, you had discovered, I think after this experience, you discovered that Drake was part of your ancestry, your
I
lineage.
found out later. It's pretty crazy. So after he helped me understand the power of creation, he helped me understand that I needed to avoid negative influences of any kind, and I need to recognize that there is purpose in evil. That for us to have good, we have to have evil. That the pendulum has to swing both ways for us to be able to choose, and to
Yes,
remove
right.
and for us to remove evil, it removes our ability to choose. And we're here to make choices and to learn in Earth School. So people ask me all the time, well, if there's a God, how can God allow all these bad things? Because God loves us. That's how. God
It's a
wants us to
tough
have a
one.
choice. Yeah.
It's a tough one.
God
Yeah.
can't come in and intervene on every negative instance of choice. But here's where God does intervene. Energetically, spiritually, and with angels, God is constantly getting involved where there's evil that's going on. And when you see certain events, certain horrible events, but you see it from the paradigm of spirit or from the paradigm of heaven, you're seeing that where you think there is all this suffering, there's actually all these angels gathering up all these spirits, these souls, pulling them out and putting them into a safe, protected place so that they can watch these traumas happen. But the soul themselves is not experiencing the trauma. The trauma is being experienced solely by the body and only by the body, not by the soul. So, God does have some certain protections that
Oh,
happen
good.
that still allow us that free agency. But even in the most extreme situations, it still puts a special protection around the soul, around the
Good.
spirit, so that
That's good to know.
it doesn't receive the trauma we think it would have in those events. Yeah. But it did help me understand that there is purpose in evil, that we have to have bad to have good. so that we can make those choices. And the last thing that Drake taught me is that we're all one. Every single one of us. We're all individual fingers on God's hand. And that for me to hate or harm another finger is to hate or harm myself. Because together we are held together by the core of creation, which is God, our source creator. And it's really important for all of us to understand that as we go around hurt others, as we go around take things from others, we're only taking from ourselves energetically. If we go around, we build up others, we give to others, we're giving to ourselves, we're building up ourselves. So it's important for us to make those positive deposits of energy in life. And the way we do that is go out there and serve, love, care for each other.
Mhm.
That's where we do it. That's where we
That's awesome.
are able to exemplify that principle of the fact that we are all one.
How long did it take you to come back fully? And I hear that people, you mentioned it in the book that once you're back in the body, there's a little bit of depression. There's a little bit of
Major depression.
lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
major depression, especially if you got to see heaven, which I did. At this point, I got to actually see
Yeah.
heaven. I got to actually see the real space. I got to see that there is a pearly gate or a gate of pearls. And what these gate of pearls are these big orbs that we ourselves, when we're trying to exit the trauma of this life off of us, if we feel we're a big victim of any kind, we have to exit that victimhood off of us for us to get into heaven. So some of us will get caught up in these gates of pearl or these pearly gates to decompress or release the traumas from this life. And then once we fully released it, the spirit energy, the angel energy brings us right into heaven. And that's where I got to see heaven. I actually got to touch down in heaven. I got to feel the grass, the amazing, beautiful, life-changing, spiritually amplifying grass. This grass, each and every blade had an individual consciousness, but yet together with all the other blades, you could feel this collective consciousness, this collective love that was there for every single creation. And I felt that love everywhere I went in that heaven space. That this love is part of our creator, and that heaven in itself is an extension of the creator, an extension of what I would call God. And you could feel it through everything, through the grass, through the trees, through the flowers, and most amazingly through the water. The water was so tremendous. Yeah, the water like came up to my feet and asked me, do you want us on you? And I was like, yes, I want you on me.
Yeah.
So the water like came up from my feet and washed over me from my feet up to my head. And it was a lot like what you would consider like a baptism or something like that, where it completely cleansed me of the upbringing that I received. I was raised in a fairly abusive home. And I was a broken boy inside, definitely.
Yeah.
And the way I sought to heal myself was through fighting and through certain sports that were pretty violent. So I felt that's where I was channeling my healing, was to get through sports and through fighting. But this water changed me. And to me, this is one of the biggest impacts, was this water, because it filled in the deepest, darkest holes in my soul. It healed me completely. And that's when I realized there was a building, an amazing building, off in the distance. And it had some holy records inside the building that you could go and learn about reality, about the truth, without his story or her story. You could learn truth, absolute truths. And again, not history, not his story, but truths, absolute truths. But to go there and learn, you had to match the love energy of this building. And I was watching, certain people would walk up and they would want to get into a certain room, and they couldn't. They'd have to keep walking to another room where their love energy matched the energy of that room. And as soon as it matched, an opening just formed. They walked in, and the opening sealed itself. But it was very liquid-like, this entire building, but yet it was made out of a white marble, a beautiful white marble that glowed. The marble itself glowed, and the entire building was built out of one piece of this marble. And the building itself was alive and conscious and full of love, full of passion about learning. And it serves such a high purpose to be there and be in existence. And as I'm experiencing all this, I wanted to go in one of these rooms, and that's when I was stopped. That was the first time in my whole progress where I was actually hindered or stopped. And that's when Drake came around to the front of me, and he looked at me in the eyes, and he said, "Vinny, this is going to be hard, but it's going to be worth it." And when he said that to me, I felt as if he climbed deep into my soul. And he gave me a hug. He went forward and gave me this hug. And this hug, to me, is the most beautiful experience I've ever experienced in my entire existence. This coming together of two souls and becoming one in this energetic hug of God's love. I felt as if I was 8 times more powerful than I ever could have been on my own when I was combined into this powerful hug of love. And that was life-changing for me, to understand that there was power out there, power like that I'd never experienced before. And that's when, out of nowhere, I started to hear this prayer being given over my body. Now, meanwhile, this is me in a brain dead coma for 3 days. So even though
3 days.
even though they brought my body back, I was brain dead and in a coma for 3 days. And at the end of the 3 days, my brother was giving my body a special prayer or a special blessing. And that's when I heard it. I actually heard the blessing, the prayer being given, as if it was being said right in my ear. I heard it. And he blessed me to be made whole. He blessed me that I would come back into my body, come back into my consciousness, come back into the earth school, the earth life. He blessed me to come back. And as he completed that, he completed it with an amen. I felt as if somebody stopped all the progress I was getting and yanked me. To me, it felt instantaneous. It felt like they yanked me directly back into my body. Now, there was a delay, though. My brother had said this prayer just before 10 p.m. at night, and I woke up at 1:11 in the morning. So when you go to my life support and all of that stuff, you see all the alarms started going off at 1:11 in the morning. Because at 1:11 in the morning, when I woke up, I took everything off of me. There was tubes coming out of my nose and out of my mouth. There was IVs and catheters. I yanked everything off of me, even as painful as pulling out certain catheters are. I did it. I couldn't stand to have anything touching me. I felt as if the energy of who I was, my soul, is the size of like a whale. And to be shoved back in this little human body, this little meat suit, I felt extremely claustrophobic instantaneously. And so I did. I yanked everything off of me. I couldn't even have a hospital gown touching me. So I stood there for a few seconds and realized all these alarms were going off of all this equipment plugged in on the wall. So I went through and pulled all the plugs I could find out. Some of them I remember even yanking out, like they're actually screwed into the wall. I still yanked them. I didn't want anything touching me or around me making those alarms. I just felt so claustrophobic. And then the next thing I realized is I was standing there naked, so I had to find something to cover me so I could leave. I did find a couple of gowns in a cupboard. I grabbed a couple of these gowns, wrapped them around my midsection, and I took off. I went at a little bit of a jog. I knew as soon as I exited my room, I could see there was elevators down on the right. So I went as fast as I could carry myself down to that elevator and I hit the down button. Somehow I knew. I was up on the 3rd floor. I don't know how I knew, I just knew. And I'm hitting the down button. I'm hitting the down button. And then I hear a scream. And a nurse had gone in the room and saw that there was nobody in there, number one. And that all the equipment had been yanked out of the wall, which that freaked her out too. And so another nurse went running in to check on her, and she screamed. She yelled, and then they both came out in the hallway and saw me, and they screamed again. At that point, I had this just very, very strong knowing that they would get in a lot of trouble if I left, if I escaped. And so I decided not to. I decided, well, I don't want them to get in trouble. So I went back for them, and they went ahead and began the process of trying to convince me that I needed to stay and be observed they wanted to observe me for 72 hours more, at least. And I didn't want that. I wanted to leave right then and there. And again, I woke up at 1:11 in the morning, and between that and about 7 a.m., I was signing paperwork. Constantly signing paperwork, telling him who I was, what year it was, who was the president, all of this stuff. I went through all of that. And finally, at about 7, just after 7 o'clock, I got the green light that I could leave. And I waited for a few minutes for my dad to come pick me up. He picked me up, and I was out of there about 7:30 in the morning after being dead and being in a brain dead coma for 3 days. I left, and I was fine. I was extremely depressed. I didn't
Oh,
want to
yeah.
be here on this earth anymore. I wanted to go back home. And that was pretty rough on me until I met an amazing woman who ended up being my wife. Until I met her, until I could see this little ray of light, this ray of heaven come into my life, I didn't want to be here. I was even working with the search engine back then. It was the most popular one at the time, called Ask Jeeves. And I was asking Jeeves like what the most dangerous jobs were. And number one was underwater welder, which I had no qualifications for that. But being a crab fisherman was number 2 in Alaska. So I had actually looked into a few boats, and a few boats hold kind of some recruiting exercises. And I had signed up for one of those to go fly out to Seattle and do some preliminary recruiting stuff. And I canceled it shortly thereafter because I did end up meeting Andrea just right after that. And that's where the kind of the beginning of the end starts for me. I came back, and it was very hard to come back and have this experience and try to decompress it and understand it, and understand that that's the reality, not here. Here is not a reality. Here is the virtual reality or the illusion. And over there is the reality. So that was quite difficult for me to come into an understanding of that.
I've interviewed a couple other people, and one of them said, we don't have God's love available to us here. It's only on the other side, and that made me uncomfortable to think that we're not given God's love. But to come to think of it, we have to have faith that it's there.
Yeah.
We have to train our eyes to see it in a flower, remind us with shows like this, and to look at a baby is magical, but is more than that. There's a whole lot of different things. So we have faith that we go on, which makes us a little bit lower vibration. I mean, than you, but yet it's there. You don't need the faith anymore.
I don't need any faith at all. I have an absolute knowledge of what's there for us. Absolute knowledge. And that sometimes is even worse, because you can claim ignorance when you make a mistake. But when you make a mistake and you know what you're supposed to do, that's very different. Very different.
It's God's love. But life is tough, very tough. And stories like yours really, really help.
Yeah, it's funny. In life, newborn, newlywed, or nearly dead, those 3 are the most authentic. And it's And it's because during those three periods of time, you end up surrounding yourself with so much love that you can be extremely authentic. And even
Exactly.
if, even if someone doesn't feel necessarily the love at the end of their life, they're done trying to pretend to be anything else. They're going to be
Mm-hmm.
their authentic self, so the hard part would be for us to get to that point in this life. And that's one of the reasons why we can't feel God's love here. Because here's the thing: if we could actually feel even 1% of God's real love for us, it would so impact every one of your choices every day. It would defeat the purpose of being at Earth School, because you'd be so influenced by that 1% of love that's there already for us.
Wow.
And that's just 1%. I'm telling you, there's 100% over there that we get to feel and have the moment we're gone, the moment we cross. And the only
Wow.
way we can feel it here is by serving, loving, and caring for each other. And when
Giving
we
up to others.
do, we're creating the infinite symbol, the infinity symbol, because we're synchronizing that love energy from self to outer self, which is others. And as
Mm-hmm.
we do that, we are bringing or activating that God love within us. Yeah.
Think about that. You've got some, because there were 10 lessons Drake
Yes. Yeah.
spoke to you about. And that would
Yeah.
kind of cut off one of the lessons if you're able to actually put that into action, I would
Yes,
think.
definitely. Yeah. And it's all about exemplifying those things that he taught me, but not just that. It's all about the journey for us here. We've got to enjoy the journey. We have to appreciate the journey, and recognize that many times the destination is the journey. We are supposed to be on this journey, and that's where we grow the most. It's not about where we're going to end up. It's about what we're doing while we're getting there. That's what it's about. Is how we drive this meat suit on Earth School. That's really what it's about.
I love that.
And I
How
got
we drive
to
the meat shoot.
have an amazing experience. About 7 months after my experience itself, I was at a little town in Wyoming. This little town in Afton, Wyoming. I was watching a kind of a history lesson or a history presentation by the local high school there in Star Valley. They were doing a presentation on the history of the town, the history of the town of Afton, and who the founders were, some of the first clergy in the area. And up pops this photo, a photo of my guide, of Drake. And you would have thought somebody hit me with an ice machine or an ice gun. I froze. I couldn't speak. I just had to leave. I couldn't even stay there and even look at the photo anymore. To me, my whole experience was a possible delusion. It was a possibility until I saw that photo in that little town of Wyoming. Now I had something that was from this world, from the third dimensional world, from our world here, from 3D, 4D world. I saw this picture of someone who I met in heaven. And to me, that was bringing the two worlds together. The one problem I had, though, is on the picture, it said his name was Charles. It didn't say Drake. And so I went to my grandmother. I recognized the last name, same last name as my grandmother's maiden name. I went directly to her and I said, Grandma, who is Charles Kazare? And her exact response was, oh, you mean great grandpa Drake? He's pretty famous in this part of the world. And that was, boom, blew me up. I started weeping. I started crying. And I realized that not only was he real, but even the terminology was real. He was known as Charles Kazare to his profession and to all those who knew him in a professional manner. But all of his friends and all of his family called him Drake, his middle name. And how awesome that was for me to know that this life-changing experience was not just real, but it was catered and delivered by one of my ancestors, my own great grandfather.
Whoa.
On my grandmother's side. Like this is like boom. It changed
That's
everything for me.
Yeah.
Now the even the chance that it was some type of delusion that my imagination was bringing out, it was impossible.
Impossible.
My science brain was now completely satisfied that this was real. It had to be real. There's
Oh,
no
I'm so
way that
grateful.
my psyche or my psychology, my subconscious could reach out into the ethers and grab a real being who I
Yeah.
never learned about or heard about ever in my life and use that in as media. It's not possible. So, finally I had my ego satisfied to realize that my experience was real. And since then I've been using my experience to share with people, help people be
Mm-hmm.
okay with dying, or be okay with surviving death. Because both are hard, but surviving death's harder than dying.
Yeah.
Dying's the easy part, you guys. Dying is so
Interesting.
it's like getting at the top of a slide, and by the time you're at the bottom, you're like, "Ooh, yeah, this is awesome." So I'm telling you, like, dying is easy. That's the easy part. The hard part is the
Oh,
surviving. Being the ones who stay here in Earth School, that's the hard part. And that's
well,
why I share my experience is to help make it easier for people.
that's wonderful. I have one very important question.
You got it.
One last question. Animals.
Yes.
Please tell me everything about animals in heaven.
So animals are very much a big part of our experience here. And God being the our creator and such a being of love, we get to carry those relationships with us, including our animals. Now, even this is the hard part for the meat suit to understand. Even if the animal themselves has a higher path to do something other than just hang out with us for eternity, they will lend a piece of their consciousness to be with us as long as we want and as often as we want. So we get to have our animals close to our heart for an eternity. But the great thing is there's no communication limitations. We get to have full spectrum communication with our animals once we're on the other side. So it is a really beautiful thing to see a new aspect of our relationships with our animals. It can grow to a whole new level when we don't have any barriers to our communication.
That's
So yeah,
that is
definitely to
so
answer that,
wonderful.
animals keep coming. Yes, all dogs go to heaven. So do cats. So do horses. So do cows.
Yes.
Even I've experienced cows and even some pigs. It just really depends on the connection they have to the person. They
To
will
the
be
person.
there for us. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. That's so comforting for me because my whole life is animals. People, not so much, but animals, yeah. No,
Well, what's funny
I
is
like people too.
since my experience, I have a gift or a curse that I can tap into the soul of a being. And many times,
Oh,
when I'm working with different animals, certain cats, certain dogs, even certain horses, where I tap into the soul of who that being was before Earth, and the closest thing that I can experience to what they were before Earth was an angel, truly an angel. And there's many animals that come here in service to us, and it's part of their love and dedication to us, because to the whole universe we're so special. Even though it doesn't feel like it, we're extremely special. And
mm,
I don't mean like downgrade special attention special. I mean we are precious to the universe as beings,
mm,
we are. And so I've experienced horses, especially certain horses that are completely angelic beings inside them, and some
wow.
cats and some dogs too, that have really exemplified that energy. And then other times I've felt a real sense of loved ones there, serving in that capacity too. So it's such a complex thing, such a complex thing.
Yes.
And our existence is so complex. To sit there and draw circles and lines around all of it and say everything is
Mhm.
this way and everything's that way is to completely not understand life. Because you'll understand why there's not a lot of straight lines in nature, is because naturally life goes beyond straight lines. So don't allow yourself too many straight lines when it comes to your understanding of existence. It's more about a sense of playful energy, because that's where
Mhm.
God exists. That's where source exists. is within that playful energy. Yeah.
Awesome. That is just so amazing. There, can you speak? I told you that, and that was the last one, but I have one more. Can you speak to us about prayer? Because so we have the 30 minutes before
Hmm.
bed, 30 minutes
After waking up.
prior to
Yes.
starting your day, right?
Hmm.
So that golden hour, power
Yep.
hour.
Yep. Power
So
hour, hour power.
the first thing I was thinking about, oh, I pray because I do,
Hmm.
but I need some guidance with prayer.
Well, here's what's great is God, our source, our creator, is not up, in that existence thinking there's one right way to pray. There isn't. The only wrong way to pray is to not pray. So if you pray by just talking and conversing with God, then do it. If you talk and converse with nature, Mother Nature, then do it. You're still sending those prayers to God. Those will still end up with God, and they get delivered by our loved ones, our angels, our ancestors. It's just very important for us to openly communicate with the divine. Wherever we feel the most comfortable for that, we need to open up for it. But I'm going to take it one step further. Don't just open up and communicate with the divine. Give yourself precious quiet time to receive from the divine. If you drive up to Starbucks and you order your drink and then you just drive straight home, do you complain that you never got your drink? So, when you're at the coffee shop and you're ordering your drink, when you're going to God and you're asking for something or you're asking for help, pull forward and give yourself a moment to receive that help, to receive the answer, and then go home, then go about your day. Because too many times we say our prayers, we say what we need, and then we just go about our day. We don't even give a moment to receive the answer.
That's
So
true.
give yourself time to receive the answer.
Well, how do we know the answer is that God is answering us, or our loved ones are answering us, and it's not our imagination or our wishes, or something like? Is there something?
So unfortunately, our
Yeah.
ego is an acronym for edging God out. Your ego wants you to believe that your imagination can't answer your prayers. Well, guess what? God's going to answer your prayers wherever you're going to receive them. So if that's through your imagination, allow it, flow it. And then after a while, you'll realize there's a difference between your imagination and feeling the answers of God come through you.
Right.
It's
Right.
very different, but you're going to have to allow it somewhere first. And for some people, that's going to be their imagination. Other people, it's going to be just a knowing. Other people, it's going to be a gut feeling, something in their gut just telling them, hey, this is what you got to do. So whichever direction you're getting your answers, allow yourself to receive those answers. Don't try to put your ego in front of it and say that's just your imagination or that's just something you ate for breakfast. Don't follow that intuition. Like your ego is constantly using what they call the monkey mind brain or the monkey voice to constantly chatter and try to push out any intuition of
Mhm.
any kind. So don't allow your ego to do that because
Right.
it's not there to edge God out, even though that's what it stands for.
I love that. I've never heard that before. Thank you so much. Oh, you've been so generous with your time. I do want to tell everyone about your book, uh, The Light After Death, available on
Mhm.
Amazon. There's another one you've written, which will come out, I think, about Christmas or something.
Yeah, Christmas
December?
this year, Christmas of 2023, we're going to be coming out with the workbook, which is the follow-up book to the first. And it just helps
Awesome.
people go through the 10 principles that I learned essentially.
Yeah. Well, I really want to have you back so we can give that a big push because it's going to be available on your website. Also, how do people get a hold of you? I mean, you're available to do interviews. Thank you so much
Yeah,
for coming on
absolutely.
my
Yeah.
show. How else can we support your success?
Well, I've got a nonprofit. It's called livinggodslight.com. They can find that through the book too. So if they go to the book site, which is a sister site to that called thelighafterdeath.com. But yeah, livinggodslight.com is my nonprofit. It's where we are able to make a big difference for people. We're helping activate the spiritual connection in many, many people across the world. At the same time as we're able to serve and help some underserved kids in the world as well. So we're really trying to make a difference out there. And through that website, livinggodslight.com, they can actually reach out and set up a personal meeting if they want to with me. Absolutely.
Oh, how sweet. They're so wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on my show. You've been so generous with your time. We're a little bit over an hour. And I can't wait to have you back talking about your next book.
Thank you so much, Debra. It's been really awesome to speak with you and to meet your audience.
Oh, thank you so much. Wasn't that amazing? Oh my gosh. His story is so exciting, so unique. All of the near-death experiencers that I'm hearing nowadays in the recent years has a little bit different slant to it. So people are going, instead of near death, where they go to the edge and then come back, these people, John Davis and Vinny Tolman, they went all the way to heaven and is sharing their story, sharing God's light. And I do have all of his contact information down in the show notes. Thanks so much for being with me. Until next time, stay safe. Bye-bye.